Hello, this is cjhoyle, and welcome to day 11 of my solo canoeing adventure on the Trent-Severn Waterway. The time is currently about 7 a.m. and I let myself sleep in a little bit this morning because I don't have a particularly long distance to go today, and before I get going I'm going to wait until this lock opens so that I'll be able to take it down to the bottom, because last night I camped up at the top of lock 11. I normally in these circumstances would prefer to camp at the bottom of a lock, but when I looked down at the bottoms of these, this lock here, there wasn't really any good flat ground for pitching a tent. And since I'm really not in a particular hurry today, I decided that I would wait around until the lock opens. So it meant it was an opportunity for me to sleep in a little bit, and still quite a while to wait until 10 o'clock when the lock opens. But I think I'll go and do some more hiking this morning before I get things started. So yesterday evening I went on a walk over on the other side of the canal, and I was able to see the falls that mirror this lock here, lock 15, but I wasn't able to get as far to be able to see the falls which mirror the flight of locks up at the top, lock 16 and 17. I pretty much have an idea of how I would get there, but I ran out of time because I had to get back to the lock station to get the key for the bathroom. Now with additional time this morning, I'm determined to go and see if I can get there. So I managed to find my way up to the top of the lock by standing over on this side of the canal, and I think if I follow this pathway here, it should lead me directly to the main dam. So I've nearly made it to the top of the dam now. For some perspective, I came under that bridge yesterday with the canoe when I was heading towards Healy Falls near the end of my paddling. And finally, here's my first look at Healy Falls, or at least the top section of it. So they've got the dam oriented so that most of the water is coming through that one gate right there. Just like the waterfall that I saw yesterday, it's neat how the sedimentary rock forms natural stairs like that for the water to flow down. So after my persistent searching, I can now officially say that I've seen Healy Falls. As I'm walking back, I was just noticing this white truck parked next to the Hydro building that I don't remember seeing yesterday. So I wonder if they had to cross the swing bridge today to be able to get there. While I've been walking, I've been noticing a lot of this plant here, which is the plant that's used for making catnip. Yeah, considering the doors of that truck are open, I'm certain now that it definitely wasn't there yesterday, so I'll be really interested to see if the swing bridge is closed when I get back. Aha, so the swing bridge is closed. Something that I was noticing about this swing bridge when I was looking at it yesterday is that there's no type of motorized mechanism here in the middle. This middle part is just simply a pivot point, and to be able to actually swing this bridge in and out of the way, there's a tow hook here. So a vehicle is needed to tow this thing back and forth in either direction. So this morning when I was away on my hike, that white truck must have drove up and hooked on there, pulled the swing bridge out so that it was crossing the canal here, and then crossed it. And they've left it open for now. And it's going to stay like this until someone pushes it back in its other orientation. So I'm back here at my campsite and the time is about 9 o'clock, and I'm going to have my overnight oats breakfast now. If you're unfamiliar with overnight oats, I have a separate video on YouTube showing how to make this stuff. Alright, so I've got my campsite all packed up and all my stuff is loaded over there. Now I just need to put it in the canoe and I'll wait for the lockmaster to let me into the lock so I can go down. Alright, so I've got the canoe in the water and I can see that the lockmaster has already opened the gates for me. Alright, here I go under the swing bridge. Alright, so the gates behind me are closed now and we're beginning our journey down lock 15. Here come the zebra mussels again. Alright, well here come the big wooden gates and I can continue my way down the Trent River. So my plan for today is to paddle from lock 15 Healy Falls to the Ranney Falls flight of locks, lock 11 and 12. Following the path of the river, I'll travel through the Crowe Bay and Campbellford lock stations and also paddle right through the heart of the community of Campbellford before reaching my destination. Anyway, the time is nearly 11 o'clock now, and so begins my shortest day of the trip. The river is really quiet this morning, Not much different from yesterday, although I'm sure it's going to be even more quiet because the long weekend is now over. So similar to yesterday, it's kind of a gray day once again, but unlike yesterday, there's not very much wind. There's pretty much virtually no wind. I can feel a little bit of wind behind me, but it's not really moving me at all. I'm just kind of sitting here while I'm not paddling. And I'm also paddling in the direction of the current from the Trent River, but once again, I can't really feel that effect either. When the river is this wide like this, I really don't think the current has too much of an impact on the canoe going through it. So I can see the next log station starting to come into view, and over towards the right behind that island, I saw the dam earlier, so I'm sure I'll see that again soon. So there over to the right I can see the dam. So taking a closer look, it actually looks like the hydroelectric dam is over there to the left of the loch, so I have to make sure the canoe goes in between the two dams. So I just spoke to the loch master, and he said that they were currently loading another boat, bringing them up to this level here, so he said it would be about another 10 minutes. So I decided that I would get out and I would look around a little bit at this waterfall here. So they've got a pretty big dam here, and you can see that the base of the river is just that flat sedimentary rock shelves, very similar to what I saw over at Healy Falls, although the big shelves of rock are a lot bigger, so the falls last for a much longer distance. Wow, you can see it's a pretty big loch. It'll take them a while to fill that, and they've got a boat in there that looks like it might be a sailboat. I guess not. I don't see a mast. So I'm standing on this bridge here which spans the channel for the hydroelectric generating station, and you can see over here that the buoy rope that usually goes across here with all those flotation things that say dam ahead, that's actually broken. So you got to be really careful that you don't accidentally canoe down here, because you can see that the current is quite strong, and you definitely don't want to go any further, because eventually you would end up over there. So there's a closer look at the generating station from the bottom, and from what I read, it has a nameplate capacity of 2 megawatts, and it sits directly beside the lock station over here, Crowe Bay lock station, lock 14. Well, this boat's almost been lifted all the way up to the top. This is the first lock station that I've gone through in a while, which has manually operated gates. Many of the ones I've been going through are the hydraulic electric ones that the operator, all you have to do is press a button. Well, here comes that other boat. You can see that they're towing a dinghy behind them. Alright, so I'm loaded into the lock now, and they're closing the gates behind me. And while I'm sitting here, I've been noticing a few raindrops, very light ones, starting to come down. I'm not sure whether it's going to turn into too much more than that. The forecast did say there's a chance of rain today. But of course I've got, all my stuff is inside of waterproof bags, so if it does rain, not the end of the world, but it'd be nice to avoid it if I could. Alright, so we're starting to make our way down. I noticed that the gates on the low side over there, they are hydraulically controlled, unlike the manually controlled ones at the top. So that's interesting. This is the first time I've seen a lock that's, been partially retrofitted and the other part not. Alright, here come the big gates. Now I can continue my way heading down the Trent River. Alright, so back on the water, and the bank of the river has a nice sedimentary rock face, and it's definitely raining a little bit. It's just very light raindrops that are coming down. So I can already see the next dam, and for this one there's a channel over towards the right for me to go through. This dam is currently under construction, and it looks like that excavator is doing some digging of the riverbed down there. So here I can see the sign welcoming me into Campbellford, and I'll be paddling down this little canal here to the next loch, which is also called Campbellford. As I get closer to the loch, I can see that they already have the gates open for me in anticipation of my arrival. Alright, so here I go inside loch 13, Campbellford. Just like the last loch, this one has a manual operated door on the back side and a hydraulically controlled one on the front side. So as the loch lowers me down, the rain is definitely starting to pick up, but I don't have that much further to get to my destination. Alright, well here come the big gates. Now I continue my way on to Campbellford. Alright, so I'm out of the loch now, and this is what the Trent River looks like going through Campbellford. So that loch there was called Campbellford, but the town of Campbellford actually stretches for a couple of kilometers along the river, and there's a bridge that kind of is the middle of Campbellford, which is still up to come. So I'll keep on paddling, and I'll probably not going to film quite as much today considering all this rain that's coming down. I am using my phone to record this, which is IP68 certified, which means it's, fully waterproof, but keeping water off the lens is a challenge still. There are lots of nice riverfront homes along here. When I was coming through the last log station, the lockmaster seemed a little bit skeptical about me camping tonight, considering how it's raining, and she was recommending that I stay at a motel, and I'm guessing it was probably that one there. Over there at the top of the hill I can see the water tower for the community of Campbellford. So up ahead I can see the bridge over the river here in Campbellford, and the last time that I was here was back in May of 2019. That was also my first time being here, and that was when I was doing my Central and Eastern Ontario bike tour series. So episode number 7 and number 8, I was visiting and exploring around Campbellford on my bike while I was staying in the nearby provincial park. I had my dinner at that restaurant there, the Riverview restaurant, and at the time I really wouldn't have believed that a little bit more than a year later I'd be paddling past it in a canoe. So here's another look at some of the other downtown buildings here in Campbellford. Campbellford's a community that's located within the township or the municipality of Trent Hills. Over there on the right side of the river, there is the giant $2 coin. The reason that there's a giant $2 coin, better known as a Toonie, in this town is because the artist who drew the polar bear, which appears on the back face of that coin, is originally from this area. The story behind how Campbellford got its name was that one of the farmers who owned the land on one side of the river was named Campbell, and back in those days there was no bridge across, so the way that you would get across the river would be to, drive across a rocky part of the river where it was relatively shallow, better known as a ford, or in other words you would ford the river, and this particular ford back there was known as Campbell's Ford, so Campbellford came from that. So at this point here, the river passes over to the left through a dam, and the boats continue over to the right along a channel. And it looks like that dam is under construction right now. So I'm still paddling along the canal now, and it's still raining quite steadily. Over on the left, there's an island that was formed when they built this canal between this and the actual river over on the other side. I do remember riding my bike up along that road. Alright, so just came around the corner and I can see over to the left the rope line which goes into the generating station, and then straight ahead there is a swing bridge, and beyond there is the lock station that I'm heading for, the Ranney Falls lock. Alright, so here I am, so I'll park the canoe and I'll scope the lock station out a little bit to find where the best place to camp would be. As usual, my favorite would be to camp at the bottom of the lock station so that tomorrow morning I can get started nice and early before the lock opens. Alright, so I've spoken to the lockmaster and there's camping down at the bottom, so here I go down lock 11 and 12. A little bit of a tight squeeze under this bridge. Not quite as tight as that swing bridge I went under at the beginning of this morning. The lockmaster seemed pretty excited to see me. I think I might be his first person going through today. Alright, so here I go down through lock 12, and once I get to the bottom of this one, then I'll be going directly into lock 11, because this is a flight of locks, remember? Alright, so here the gates open and I continue on to lock 11. Alright, so now the big gates behind me are closing and I'll continue my way down to that level. Alright, and here we go down. Alright, so down at the bottom of lock 11, and they're just about to open the gates there. I can see a crack of light through there, and there it opens up. Going through this flight of locks is very similar to the flight of locks that I ended yesterday with. Alright, so down here at the bottom of lock 11 there's this nice grassy area with the picnic table, and that's where I'll be camping tonight. And I think I'll probably unload the canoe from the dock here, and I should easily be able to get the canoe out of the water over there. Alright, so the canoe's out of the water and all my stuff is here. It's quite a scenic campground. I love the look of that sedimentary rock face over there. And then tomorrow morning I'll get up and I'll continue that way. So I was able to get the tent set up pretty quickly, and the rain seems to have mostly stopped now. So I got all my stuff inside the tent now, and I also moved the canoe up and locked it to that tree there. And I'm just having an apple now. I figure it's a little bit late in the afternoon. It's already about 2:45. So I figure if I had lunch now, then at dinner time I probably wouldn't be very hungry for it. So I'm just gonna have an apple, and then I'll have an extra big dinner to make up for it. But before then, I'm gonna go and explore some of my surroundings. So that right there is the Ranney Gorge Suspension Bridge, which is a bridge which takes pedestrians and cyclists across the river gorge of the Trent River between here where I am on this island over to the provincial park, Ferris Provincial Park, over on the other side. I rode my bike across this bridge last May, but unfortunately this bridge is currently closed right now, and I haven't yet found the explanation as to why it's closed, but I have a feeling it's probably closed not due to any kind of mechanical issues. It's more likely closed due to the pandemic to avoid crowds congregating, because it's a relatively narrow bridge, and I imagine on weekends it's a pretty popular place for people to come. But over there in the distance you can see a little bit of Ranney Falls with the Campbellford water tower in the background. Just beyond the suspension bridge here is the Ranney Falls generating station, which is currently undergoing a retrofit where it's being upgraded from 10 megawatts to 20 megawatts. So there's the generating station over there, and it's fed from water that comes through the same canal that I was paddling through today. It sure looks a whole lot nicer when it's not raining. Here's a swing bridge, and then there's lock 12 and lock 11 in the distance. So I've just walked over to the nearby Giant Tiger, where I should be able to stock up on some of my grocery items that I need. So the time is now about 5 p.m. and I'm going to walk into the town of Campbellford to find something for dinner. The walk is about 2 kilometers. So my plan for this evening had been that I would cross the suspension bridge and then I would walk through Ferris Provincial Park to get to downtown Campbellford. However, since the suspension bridge is closed, instead I'm walking along next to the canal. As I'm walking along here, I've been noticing that the flow in the canal is pretty strong, and that must be because the water that comes through here not only feeds the lock, but it also feeds the hydroelectric generating station. I remember when I was paddling through here, I felt like I must be paddling very fast, but obviously that flow was helping me, and I couldn't detect it because everything was being rained on at the time. So because they're currently replacing this dam, they've got the bridge taken out too, and a temporary one put in its place. So after coming across that bridge, I'm now off the island and walking through some of the older parts of Campbellford. So I was right about this being the oldest part of Campbellford because I've just stumbled upon the oldest home with electricity. The building actually doesn't look that old. They must have done some work to the exterior of it. Across the street from it is the old fire station, built in 1889. This building here looks a little bit more original, built in 1875. And there's the main bridge for Campbellford that I paddled underneath of earlier today. So here's one of the main streets of Campbellford, and as I'm walking I'm keeping my eyes out for places that I might want to have dinner. So I think I'll try this place, 52 North Pub and Grill. So I got this nice table with a view out the open air window. So from the menu I chose their build your own burger option, and I pretty much decided to make a bacon cheeseburger with a few other toppings on it as well. The item on the menu also includes 2 sides, so I got a garden salad and garlic mashed potatoes. Alright, so I'm on my way back to the lock station now, and I'm just crossing the bridge here so that I can walk on the other side of the canal on my way back for a bit of a change of scenery. So over here on this side of the river there's also a small little downtown area. Interesting activity going on over here in the park. So here I am standing in front of the giant $2 coin, or giant Toonie as most Canadians know it. Here's a nice view overlooking the river as the sun begins to set. So as I walk back to the campsite, that'll pretty well do it in terms of day 11 of my trip. It was an interesting day. It was definitely my shortest day yet, and I'm sure it'll be the shortest day that I'll do on the entire trip. But all in all, it wasn't bad. It was nice in the morning getting to go for that hike. Before I got started, it was nice, to see that waterfall that I tried to get to yesterday but couldn't quite get there. I'm glad I had that extra time to do that. So I started at like 10:30, like when I was, I wasn't actually, when the lockmaster arrived at 10, I still had my tent up. I still had to take that down. So I didn't actually get, to go through the lock until like 10:30 or so. And it was a really slow start to the day. And it just felt really weird when I'm used to, starting paddling at 7, 10:30, 10:45 or whatever, it's really, really late to get started. So I didn't really enjoy that as much. Getting rained on wasn't the most fun either. It was never really raining very hard, but it was, enough, I think, enough rain accumulated from all the light rain that came down that my shoes and socks, got wet. And, so did a lot of my other stuff. So it just meant a little bit of, drying out things tonight to be able to deal with that. But not the end of the world. I did enjoy walking around Campbellford. I am disappointed that the suspension bridge was closed because I had been looking forward to crossing that suspension bridge and going and exploring a bit more around Ferris Provincial Park. I figured I could do some hikes while I was here since I got here relatively early, but the rain and the suspension bridge being closed kind of foiled those plans. So tomorrow I have a fairly long day of paddling ahead. I'm hoping to get to lock number 7, which I forget the name of it at the moment, but I think it's about 25 kilometers away, so I'll have my work cut out for myself. Not that that's a particularly long distance, but the main challenge is that the lock stations are only open for such a short window of time, and I'll be going through quite a few locks. So the lock stations open at 10, like they did today, but they also close at 3:30, which means I'll be able to paddle as far as the next lock station before 10, but I won't be able to get across it until they get there at 10. But I have to get to the final one before 3:30, or I won't be able to, get a proper campsite and get, the bathroom key and that sort of thing. So I will be hopefully racing it a bit against the clock tomorrow. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed joining me for day number 11 of this trip. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.